What is up, everybody? It's Max from Marvelous Talk. I'm with Big G. What up, Big G?
What's happening, Max? Good morning to the Marvelous Talk viewers and everybody out there this morning. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating and watching us on our podcast. And we're going to break down a little bit of Marvelous Talk this morning. But before we get into that, let's get into some of our sponsorship of what we got going on. And Max, I'm going to say to you, because you had something you wanted to say off the top of your head.
No, I'm just excited to talk about this Comicon preview. It's a big step. We've been without it for 3 years now. 3 years.
Yeah. 2019 was the last time we had Comicon.
And we still miss Mod. We're missing Mod like we missed these Comicons, but he'll be back soon. Everybody out there. It's just me and Big G. But before we get into the preview of Comicon, let's get into this intro. Man, everybody, do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe and comment down below. Me and G, we love when everyone gets involved with it, when they're asking us questions and we get a chance to explain. And I mean, G's the comic book historian on the show. I'm not going to lie, I can't compete. The comic books were a little bit before my time, but they weren't before his time. So, Big G, you the historian. What are you excited about for Comic-Con?
Man, Max called me a fossil.
Hey,
that's funny. That's funny as
what's
all
worse,
get up
old or
early in the
fossil?
morning, man. I don't know, man. Either one of them is like is okay by me, because sometimes I'm being honest, man, things only get more valuable the older they get. So I love the fact that I'm called old and a fossil. Really, believe it or not, I really do. It's like a compliment. But comic books, man. Just the FYI, comic books, they were hit really hard in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And that just was the era that I was, teenager and young person. And so, my thing is less digital, more comic. But I am excited for a lot of things at Comic-Con. First of all, just Comic-Con, like you said, Max, we haven't seen it for 3 years. And to have everybody all back in the Hall H and, get the anticipation all built up. There's so much information out there right now, concerning Comic-Con and about people dropping spoilers and hints about what this and that's going to be. But I think that's the whole anticipation point of it, from people who are just average everyday fans like, us, or people who like deep dive into stuff and, all whatever else, that Comic-Con sort of brings the life back to the MCU and the DC world, which is, we don't mention on the show. and
Well,
definitely like
if it
stuff
was
like
worth
Star
mentioning,
Wars,
we mention it. All right. If it
Yeah,
was worth mentioning,
yeah.
we'd mention it. I think what Comic-Con does, it run and reset stuff. It like builds up that like air of mystery, just like the anticipation for stuff. And look, if I'm gonna ask you, what's your watch list gonna be, Big G? And I know you could say a million things, but what are a few things you're looking forward to?
Man, one of the biggest things that I'm looking forward to, man, is that I'm about 99.999% sure we're going to get some type of Black Panther 2 Wakanda Forever footage. I think that, that information is going to be pivotal and critical, because right now, the Marvel or MCU world, they're sort of in a lull. I can't say that we're losing people or that the MCU is losing people, but I think that the mixed reviews of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, some of the mixed reviews with Thor: Love and Thunder, and some of the mixed reviews with Miss Marvel, has sort of put people like, man, I don't know, and I think those are more or less the casual fans. But I think Black Panther 2 is going to reel it all back and going to get everybody back, hyped up and talking about what's going on in the MCU. So, I mean, there's all kind of characters I want to see in there. everybody from Namor, which I heard that they were changing his history, to his sister Namora, to possibly Riri Williams and Ironheart. I mean, there's a lot going on with Black Panther 2, so I'm really excited to see that title.
Well, for those of you watching, you saw Sean's excited also for the all animation. Like you were telling me so many times about we're gonna get so many animated series, whether that's X-Men 97 Volume 2,
Mm.
What If Season 2, and maybe some
Hmm.
Spider-Man freshman year. And out of those three, which one are you most excited for? You'd say?
Well, I mean, so just already in the first couple of movies that's been, or productions that's been dropped through the MCU, we've had a reference to X-Men 97 and Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. When Charles Xavier came out on the stage or with the Illuminati, you heard the music playing, right? And then, because there's been some argument about, is Miss Marvel actually a mutant? Why else would Kevin Feige and the crew over at the MCU play the exact same music when it was introduced that Kamala Khan has a mutation in her blood, or a mutant? So I think that you have two references to X-Men 97 that are in the live actions productions. So to be honest, I'm really hyped about the X-Men 97, because I don't know if it's going to be all cartoon. I think that there's a possibility that we might see some of that cartoon stuff jump, because remember, we have America Chavez in the MCU. America Chavez fell through multiple different dimensions, including a dimension that looked like it was cartoon and a dimension that looked like it was all paint. And so could you see that being a way that maybe the MCU gang pull some of those comic book characters right directly into the MCU, the big screen? You think that could actually happen? Because Professor Xavier was, already there.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the way you said it, maybe that like cartoon universe she went in, it's all interconnected. Like there's an MCU in that where it's all the animation shows, where it's Spider-Man 97. That's where the
Mm.
X-Men is. That's going to be where maybe Groot takes place. I don't they're going to be I Am Groot, supposed to be animated. Is that going to be just based off of what we've seen from Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and is that what it's going to be about, or is it going to be like a separate Groot, like a different version of him? And speaking
Yeah.
of Galaxy of the Guardian 3, we have that coming. We have the holiday special, and look, there's been some infamous holiday specials, most notably the Star Wars holiday special, which has been a topic for 30 years about. So
Yeah.
what is this Guardian of the Galaxy's holiday special going to be? I mean, it's going to be fun. It's going to be uplifting, because that's just what they do, right? With Guardians of the Galaxy. But does it have the potential to become a meme? Is it going to be like sing and dance, and where's Gamora? We didn't even see her in Thor Love and Thunder. She was absent from the crew.
Yeah. I think for sure well, let me go back. Let me go back and say this. I think that we've been saying this for years on the show. We've been saying it for years in the chat line, and us just having just casual conversations along with other people about the MCU. They don't waste anything. They absolutely don't waste anything. So because of that, there's going to be something pivotal that goes down in all of these productions that's going to lead us to the next big thing. So I don't believe that the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special is going to leave anything out. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like a song and dance production like we saw in Hawkeye, but I do believe that it's going to have some things that is going to tie us directly into the future as far as what the MCU is. So any of the animated productions, I'm hyped for. Spider-Man freshman year, that'll be actually the first MCU or Kevin Feige product that it will be controlled by Kevin Feige versus controlled by the outside studio. So that's what makes that so big.
And do you think Black Panther is going to be a big tie-in movie? And I steal that from Mod, who said Black Panther is another tie-in movie. I think it has the potential to just tie the whole universe together. I'm not sure exactly what. I mean, it's hard for me to imagine it's going to tie in Doctor Strange, it's going to tie in Thor, but it could tie in Atlantis. It could tie in a little bit more of the mutations we've seen. And one of my things from my watch list was Daniel Kaluuya. He's not going to be in it, and he was one of my favorite characters. I thought he was underutilized, and I mean, he's just not coming back, and they said it's partially due to a schedule returning, and nope, but it's also kind of like I always say with Idris Elba, maybe we have too good of an actor and too small of a role, and maybe that's why he's not coming
Yeah.
back. And the Black Panther 2 is in a weird place. I always say it. They lost the star of the movie. And, Chadwick Boseman, we lost you too soon. It's how do you replace that, right? And you would need other people to step up, like a guy like him, Daniel Kaluuya, who's a really good actor, who's been in so many great movies like Queen and Slim. So him not returning, does that put a little bit of a damper on the movie for you? It did for me. I've like hope in the future he'll come back, but kind of sad I won't see him.
I don't necessarily. So he, to me, he was more or less like a conflict character. He was a guy that he was riding with whoever was on top. And I think in order for the Black Panther series to move forward with the loss of Chadwick Boseman, everybody's got to be all in for Wakanda, because there's going to be outside threats, probably for the first time ever. Because first of all, folks didn't know about Wakanda. Second of all, are the outside threats powerful enough to take Wakanda over? So for the first time, because I think that's why they're moving, and they didn't put him as such a significant or personal role. Wakanda is moving. I mean, the Black Panther series is moving to focus more on Wakanda and the development of characters that's going to move the franchise forward. So,
and Mott said he's made some bad
Border
choices.
Patrol. Yeah. I mean, the Border Patrol, the world knows about Wakanda now. So what they need the Border Patrol for? That makes sense. They were supposed to have the image outside and act like they're farmers and all whatever else. The whole world knows about Wakanda. So, we don't need all of that no more.
Look, they weren't hiding Wakanda from the world. They were hiding the world from Wakanda. That's what I always say. Like Drake hiding his son from the world, kind of like that. You just got to hide something that's so pure and innocent away before it gets corrupt. But, Black Panther 2, it's going to be a big one. Ryan Coogler, Lolita Wright. But it's really hard to fill in those shoes, right? The man on the left's the legend, and so how do you replace those shoes? That's the big thing. And I think we're going to see a trailer. We have to, if you go to my watch list, one of the other things I want to look for is impending doom. And what I mean by impending doom is, Sean, this is one of your favorite characters and someone you've said repeatedly on the pod. You will lose your mind. You'll go streaking, whatever you say, Dr. Doom sighting. And then I really want to talk about vampires, aka not Morbius. I made my reference. It's over. It's the Morbin time, but not for Morbius. So
yeah.
With impending doom, Sean, what are you thinking about Dr. Doom? Do we see him at Comicon? Do we see maybe like a little glove, maybe like green cape?
Well, so I really do believe that we have to be moving towards Doom in some capacity. You can't have the Fantastic Four without having Doom. Now, we saw 838's dimension of Reed Richards. So, version of Reed Richards from that dimension. So, we know that he's not that far away. Could he be the intimate threat that's laying in the background, that's pushing all the buttons to try to make this thing go down between Wakanda and what we've received? Well, it's not even a perception. Atlantis is going to be in the movie. We know Namor is going to be in the movie, so is he the guy that's pushing the buttons, that's trying to make Atlantis and Wakanda fight? Could maybe. I think at the most we might get a reference to the Von Doom family,
maybe
or the area. And then we might get in a post-credit scene maybe a piece of Von Doom. But if they bring him in, man, that would be huge, man.
Well, is he a universe-altering figure in the MCU? I would say, yeah, from what he could bring. And, me and Mod and you, we've talked about this off topic, but just with this new phase, we've got some villains, and they've been a little lackluster, in my opinion. Gore, Doctor Strange, who was the bad guy? Doctor Strange, the Elizabeth Olsen, she's not really a bad person. She just kind of, she was really upset about her non-existent kids. I stand by that. She's wrong. But who else? Shang-Chi, we got his dad, the Mandarin, who I liked, but he wasn't like some amazing villain. So out of this new phase, have you had a favorite villain, or have you thought like me, it's been a little eh?
To me, they've all been terrible. They've not been like I mean, I love Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher. I love him as an actor, but the way that the production team took the character's backdrop is completely off from the comic books, and I guess that's because I'm like that because I'm a comic book loyalist, you know. But I think that there's definitely two, possibly three villains that we're coming up to that are going to be comic book accurate, and at the same time, like we're going to be like, man, finally, the MCU has villains that are boss. Because to this point, the only villain that we've had is we're like, man, he was the guy, was Thanos, right? So, but I think with Kang the Conqueror coming as a villain, I think with Victor Von Doom coming as a villain, and with Galactus coming as a villain, those three entities definitely, could help this thing out. And I'm interested to see how they're going to do Adam Warlock too. Is he going to be a villain and then eventually turn him to a good guy, or I don't know.
Or is he just
are
like an
maybe three
entity
or
that,
four.
or is he going to be like an entity that operates outside of both, where he's kind of just looking out for himself? Adam Warlock, for those of you who don't know, he was basically like the catalyst in Infinity Saga comics. He's the guy who comes up with the plan to stop Thanos, and we have that guy playing him. He's been in a bunch of stuff. I first saw him in Narnia, and now he's got the kid from We're the Millers. We saw at the end of Guardians 2 when they're like, oh, we have Warlock or Adam or whatever she said, the gold people. I just think it's going to be really interesting to see how he's utilized. Is he just going to be some out of the canon like figure? You know what I mean? And Mod says, think about this. How many movies did we have before we got Thanos? We built him up. Is that realistic to ever do again? 30 movies to connect a villain to the story? Like, here's like when we made the first three phases, right? He was just the dark purple cloud that like hung over everything. We saw him after Avengers. We saw him after Guardians of the Galaxy. We saw him in Guardians of the Galaxy. So Thanos, that I don't think that formula is doable again. You know what I mean?
Right.
But maybe you have Victor Von Doom hanging out in the background, like you said, and he's just slowly but surely amassing power and getting there. And then one day it's like, holy crap, we need to. What if they did the ultimatum storyline, Sean, where he literally wipes out so much of the Earth, where he flips the polar ice cap or flips the magnetic field because he like triggers Magneto to doing it, and we're gonna get the X-Men, like we said. So the villains need to take a step up. That's just the basic of it.
I think that's the evolution of it, Max. Really, to be honest, I believe the evolution of the MCU is going to be super villains getting really built out. And I don't know how much the casual fan will like that. But like you said, you just mentioned another guy, which is Magneto. So there's all kind of super villains that are coming that are like, they're huge, pushing the MCU to where it got to go. So is it more about the heroes or more about the villains moving forward? Because I'm telling you that's going to be a big thing, that you got to build out these villains. So it's not feasible in my mind that you're going to do 30 movies to build out one guy. No, there's too many of them that's coming. Too many.
No, it's not. And I think this could be a problem too. And I just thought of it. Think about the villain in Shang-Chi, the Mandarin. How strong would you say he was? Just like in a vacuum, like he was like. He could maybe mess up a country, but like taking over the whole world, not really feasible for him, right? With just his powers with the rings. Okay, what about Gore? He's like, dang, he could just destroy a planet with a sword. Like, that's too much.
Right.
And I feel like Magneto, Von Doom, Victor Von Doom, Namor are kind of guys, and Namor's not really a villain like the other guys are, but they're kind of like, dang, we could really make a scene for stuff. We're not super powerful. We're like, we could just destroy everything in a thought. But with the right plan, they can be like vicious and villainous. And I think they're like the perfect like medium of it. You know what I mean? And we've also seen just the expansion of the MCU into vampires. And, our first look at vampires was Morbius. It's Morbin time out there. That didn't go well, but are we gonna see some Blade? And I specifically say this for last because Maud's not here and I can basically bash Wesley Snipes the whole time. Look, that guy on the left is going to be a better Blade than Wesley Snipes. I'm just going to say that right now. Wesley Snipes for the 90s was cool. 2010, 2020, he might not be the guy who plays Blade. Okay?
Yeah,
Well, give me your
yeah.
thoughts about Blade.
So I really do believe at San Diego Comicon we're going to get some reference to Blade, right? And I don't know if we'll get an announcement that Blade is as far as like what other characters or what backdrop. And you know how like when we're at Comic Con and we get the whole panel and they show well
Yeah,
this actor's
exactly.
playing this and that. I
And
don't know if we're going
Mod's
to
not
get
a
that, but
fan of what I said, by the way. He goes,
I
"No
mean,
way."
it's all good, man. The issue is, so let me go back and say this just about Blade in general, right? Blade, in my opinion, the first rendition of Blade is what sort of drove the wantingness for people to see more Marvel. Even though I know that the X-Men was out close around that time, and Ghost Rider was out during close to that time, and there was some other little production stuff here and there. Blade is what drove the ship, and so that made a lot of the original Marvel fans hungry for more stuff. So, and then they picked a perfect guy, in my opinion, Wesley Snipes, to play that role. However, moving forward, we have to see how pivotal Blade is. Because in order for them to do a reboot story about that guy and drop him down in the middle of somewhere between phase 4 and phase 5, that means his character's got to be pivotal moving forward with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because why else do you remake it? You know what I'm saying? You don't remake a story that's already been told pretty good, right? So I'm interested to see, are they going to make the character more pivotal, and is the character being brought to life because the introduction of like a Dracula or the introduction of something that's going to be huge, which is another character, because Dracula is a member of the Cabal, so it's like, is that why they're doing it? Because I really do believe a lot of titles of these shows and these movies that's coming out, they're just as much as for the hero as they are the villain. And that's why I said I think that's the transition of the MCU is about the
Yeah,
villain.
and
So Dracula is big. To me, Dracula is bigger than Blade. To me.
Yeah, and Dracula could be a huge villain, and like Mont says, the villains need to be a little bit less like powerful, but more cerebral, more like more villainous, more cunning. And we have news that the guy who might play Dracula is Anthony Starr from the Boys series. They had him in the picture. I believe he plays Homelander, right? I think that's who he
Yeah.
plays.
Yeah, he
And
does.
that
And
guy
the
has
boys.
he's like a malicious type of like jerk, or like he's a really two-faced person. And Dracula kind of has two faces, where it's like the vampire, and it's like, oh, look, who's this mysterious guy? Who's this mysterious
Yeah.
person who lives in a castle in Transylvania?
Yeah.
Like, I think
Well,
Fox really screwed the pooch when it came to just Morbius, because that was like a really big step for vampires and just movies, and they messed it up. And here's what I'll say about Blade. G, how does he operate outside of his little like thing of I fight vampires? Like, what does he
well,
really do? That's what I'm saying. Like,
there's
how do
only
you
one.
incorporate that into the MCU where he's operating outside of his main job, which is to like take care of vampires? So you maybe have a team of Moon Knight, Doctor Strange, Blade, someone else, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Because I can't
There's
see
only
Blade
one
being
way
in
to
an
do it.
Avengers movie.
Right. There's only one way to do it. The only one way to do it is make him part of a team. He's got to be a Midnight Sun. There's no other way to do it. To make him incorporated, make him bigger than what itself is, because I believe he's just going to be a self-standing title. I just don't think it because based on what I said, the Blade series carried the Marvel Cinematic Universe if it was in its conception, years ago. So I don't think he can be standalone. So I think you bring him in to make him part of a team, but to also introduce a villain. That's just what I believe. I think that's what a lot of the stuff that we're going to get over the next X amount of time. They're bringing in these characters to bring in the villains, and I think the villains are going to carry it now more than ever. I think the villains. Think about it. You got, like you said, Magneto, Victor Von Doom, Kang the Conqueror, Dracula. You got to eventually get Norman Osborn. You got to have Norman Osborn, right?
Well, we saw him briefly, but we don't even know if that was like the real one we saw. We don't know how that one things. And and Dracula could definitely tie into Deadpool mod, and Deadpool 2, Deadpool 3's coming. I've heard so much news about how Marvel's kind of keeping away from it, kind of being like, we're going to give you the
Mhm.
freedom. We're not going to put you in the Disney PG box because you can't
Right.
do Deadpool like that. That'd be the worst thing that ever happened to
Mm-mm.
Deadpool. And I have a
Right. It
few
would
more
kill it.
watch lists. I have a few more things on the watch list we should just hit. And obviously there's like a million things, right? But we got to talk about King the Conqueror just a little bit. I want to hit
Man.
on I want to hit on Ant-Man and Quantumania just a touch because
Mhm.
that's basically a part of King. And then we could, whatever else you want to talk about, G. I'll let you talk about.
What? Well, I think that this is going to be the biggest reveal at SD22, at San Diego Comic-Con 22. I think yes, people are hyped up for Black Panther 2. God knows I am, but I think the biggest reveal and biggest things that's going to be the big takeaway, if I had a prediction, is going to be how much they're going to talk about Kang the Conqueror and how this character, as we sort of saw He Who Remains or the One Above All, I don't know which one it is, and then how they're going to turn this character and he's going to become pivotal for the next 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 projects. I think that Kang has the potential to be a villain just as good as Thanos. The actor itself alone, the actor is just going to put him in that position. But Kang is going to be seditious beyond, that's just my thing.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too, and yeah, there isn't anything G's not hyped for when it comes to that Marvel universe and Star Wars and like comics in general. But Ahmad is 100% right. I think
Mm.
with Kang, he's the main villain in Ant-Man, Quantumania, right? But he's not going to get defeated in that movie. You would figure, right? There's no way. Or maybe they defeat a variant of him, right? And Jonathan
Correct.
Majors does such a great job. I mean, we've already seen one King die. One King's
Correct.
dead.
Right.
So what like are we gonna get some Quantum Mania news? That's what I'm excited for. What if we got a first look? What if we saw the blue mask, the purple helmet, the green robes? What
Yeah.
if we got like
Yeah.
a little backdrop on like, dang, like what if they somehow go into the future in Quantum Mania and we're like, and then Ant-Man and
What?
Wasp were like, dang, like who's this guy who rules everything? And then he
Right. But do
reveals
you
himself.
right? Do you remember in Loki, Max? And this was a trip, right? In Loki, when we started hearing about, because the first thing he said was like when we got introduced to the character was, "I've been called many names," right? And he starts playing with that sand stuff, like how it was like Wakanda technology. He's messing around with the sand stuff, and he shows him going back and dealing with himself over here, him dealing with the Kang in the future, him talking about the timeline, and there was this great war, and they showed. When I went back and looked at it, I think they showed 9 or 10 different versions of himself, right? So the Kang will be a character that they'll never kill him. There's no way to totally eliminate him. Just like in my mind, there's no way to totally eliminate Ultron. But I think that Jonathan Majors has the chops to carry the character as the villain Kang, right? We don't know who Von Doom's going to be yet. We don't know. We're strictly speculating about who's what. But Jonathan Majors, we know who he is. So and that's why I think when we come away from D23, Kang's going to be the thing. He really is. There might be some references here or there, but we have no announcements as who's playing what and where, except for Jonathan Majors. So I'm like, man, he's got to be the focal point. And I really do believe we will get some footage from Ant-Man Quantumania. I think we really will.
I think so too. And I want to talk about maybe some She-Hulk because that show's on the way. There's one way to find his alpha or first form. And I think that's going to be like something I'm going to be like, wow, we have to kill like 40 kings and then we're still not there yet because there's so many of them. But what about She-Hulk? I know you've done a video on her. You're excited
Mhm.
for the series. It's going to have a comic feel to it. We haven't seen the Hulk in a long time. What was the last time we saw Hulk? At the end of Shang-Chi when he has his arm in a sling and it's Bruce Banner.
Yeah, yeah. And before that,
So
Endgame.
in Endgame. So where is She-Hulk going to fit into this phase? Is basically her show going to be the platform for? Let me rephrase. Is the She-Hulk show going to serve in place of a movie, and then she's already on the team at the end of the show?
Mm,
Because I don't think we're ever going to get
possibly.
another Hulk movie for a while. Because the Hulk movies have been so up in the air because of just riots and the character and who's he fight because all he does is get angry. Like, how many times can you show him getting angry?
Yeah. Well,
So what
I think that
happens with She-Hulk?
right, I think the She-Hulk character, and Max, I think we're going to get a subtle surprise, like how we did with Miss Marvel. You know how, like, the one thing that with the big takeaway from Miss Marvel that we both totally 100% agreed on is that she was a bridge character, right? And I think that that's what She-Hulk's going to be. I think She-Hulk's going to be a bridge character. Maybe not in the same capacity as Kamala Khan, but a bridge character. I think also in the She-Hulk show, there's going to be more reveals of characters than we've probably seen on any Disney Plus show as
Maybe
of today.
see Daredevil again. Daredevil as
Yeah.
Daredevil, not Matt Murdock.
Yep. Yep. I think. Well, we already know the Wrecking Crew is going to be there. We already know Titania's going to be there. We already know She-Hulk's going to be there.
Abomination.
Exactly. Abomination. Maybe Matt Murdock is a defense lawyer. I mean, that's why I think that the She-Hulk show is going to be a huge bridge. I've even heard that there's a possibility that Benjamin Grimm is going to get introduced on that show. So, I mean, if that's the case, She-Hulk builds the bridge for everything that goes on in 2023. So that's why I really do believe that as we're going, and if you've noticed, because I went back and I looked at this and I didn't really pay attention until I actually looked at it. The further we go out with Phase 4, the more the new characters build bridges to different stuff. So it's like the more they stretch out with a new character or an introduction of a new character, the more bridge we get for new stuff, i.e. Kamala Khan being the bridge to mutants. You know, Mod has said it before. There was references of Blade in Moon Knight. We saw with the Eternals at the end, we heard Idris Elba talking to the Black Knight. You know, so and those are all Phase 4 shows that the further we get out, the more the bridge is built to new stuff. You know, if that makes sense. So that's why I think She-Hulk will be pivotal, because I think it's a bridge show.
Yeah, and like Maj just said in the comment, I think we're gonna get a World Breaker Hulk for that reason, and maybe a mini series where Hulk is the big bad. That would be interesting to see the whole MCU shift against Hulk, and it's like we got to stop him. We got to take this piece off the board because he's too strong.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about bridges, right? So I would say the the Eternals were the bridge to like the bigger entities, the Celestials, the Eternities, right? Because I don't think you don't get that in Thor: Love and Thunder without that movie. So when we see Eternity, you're like prepared for it. You're like, oh, we've seen these people who make planets and are 50 size the time of planets, or 50 times as big as planets. So Eternals were the bridge to the upper echelon of Marvel beings. Loki was the bridge to time. It was to Kang. Kamala Khan was the bridge to a new age of hero. It was a bridge to Muslims in the MCU and Pakistani and Indians and these cultures that, look, if you can't understand the culture of the character, you're not going to like them as much. That's just facts. Like Shang-Chi talked about the culture of China, talked about the like Asian culture, and like Wakanda had African culture in it. Without the culture, we kind of lose what it means to be that character. And for people just to write off these shows just based off culture, that's just dumb, and just kind of proves why maybe you shouldn't watch the show if you can't even accept other people's culture. Let's just be real.
Right.
So Kamala was the bridge to cultures, like a new culture in the MCU. Spider-Man kind of bridged together the multiverse with Doctor Strange. It was like, oh, there's variants of people. Like Loki, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange are all bridges to basically the multiverse and variants of people, right?
Right.
Shang-Chi was just a bridge into China.
Yeah.
And Captain America was basically the bridge from Cap to Falcon, about how he's now the mantle.
Right. Well, I think the big thing is that, okay, those traditionalists or those MCU people that really didn't know about Marvel Comics before the MCU came, right? The first 3 phases, the one thing that people loved more than anything was being able to connect the dots through the Easter eggs, right? And I think now the dots are being laid the same way, but to a bigger thing that crosses culture, that crosses different reference points in the MCU. Kevin Feige may be taking some liberties to attach this to that, but they're all sort of bridge characters that's coming and moving forward to make the Marvel Cinematic Universe bigger and bigger and better and better. Max, we said on our show, they're global. This ain't about, what we think is right in the good old US of A. This is a global product. So, and it's not just a global product to sell to the world. They're talking about universes and dimensions and different stuff like that. So
and
things have to be a bridge.
multiverses.
Yes,
Yeah.
things have to be a bridge to make it the way that it is.
And
I
Kamala
see
was
Bob's
also a
comment.
bridge. Yeah, Kamala was a bridge to mutants. Exactly. I should have said that. And I appreciate you saying it was so good. I feel like a proud son. But it's just true, man. That's what this phase has been. And for, phase 4, I'd say it's probably kind of been the weakest phase. Maybe phase 1 because of so many introductions, but maybe phase 4 is like phase 1 in that regard, where there's so many introductions, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
We're getting so many Disney Plus shows. We didn't have Disney Plus in 2008 with Iron Man. We didn't even have a conception of Disney Plus. If you told me 12 years ago Disney Plus, would be like, that's dumb. Do we really need that? Truth is, we do need it,
Right.
As the truth, it's just awesome.
The question is, and the reality question of it is, have the Disney Plus shows been better than movies? In my mind, absolutely. The Disney Plus shows, it's not even close.
The thing I've enjoyed most about Phase 4 was in the movies was Shang-Chi. I thought that was a really good movie, and I really loved it. And I went into it expecting not to like it. And then for the shows like Moon Knight, Loki, it's just been killer. Everything's been killer.
Right.
Even Ms. Marvel, I was like, this is refreshing. Like, it's pretty cool to see like a kid and someone we can grow with. It's like we grew with Iron Man, we grew with Cap. We grew with these characters, and now we have new ones to grow with. But
yeah,
they have a very fine balance to walk in the MCU, Kevin Feige, and I think Kevin Feige is going to kind of calm down everybody. It's like, hey, we're still Marvel. I'm still Kevin Feige. We might have swung in. Here's the thing. I don't think they've struck out, like to put it in baseball terms, but they've hit doubles and triples. But we're used to home run every movie, and it just makes it's a double good.
What product is a double though? I mean,
I would say Doctor Strange was a triple. It was like a triple instead of a home run. Thor: Love and Thunder was like a double. Eternals, double, maybe a single. I really like that movie. I don't have as many problems with it. But Moon Knight, home run. What If, home run. In my book. That's just me. WandaVision, home run. Loki, home run.
That's nuts you say that, because most people in the rating scale, What If is like the double. What if,
I don't get. If you look at What If, though, I'm sorry to cut you off. If you look at What If just like in a vacuum, it doesn't work. It's not a show that about being in a vacuum. It's literally connecting all this stuff. And people are like, well, the plot's kind of quick and there's not a lot of development. It's like, hey, stupid. We already know these characters. We don't need to develop them. They're just a little different.
Right. What If truly was a show that they spun off stuff that we already knew that existed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and gave it a different twist. Everything else has been brand new stuff. Outside of Black Widow, everything else has been brand new. So it's like that. I understand why the traditional Marvel fan did that. How they looked at it and they were like, oh, it's got nothing to do with what we consider the canon MCU 3 years piece. But I love the fact that in this now phase, I think a lot of the things, in my opinion, have been home runs. I think the only things that have not been like just boom, knocked it out of the park has been maybe What If. I would say What If is a triple. Definitely Black Widow, not out the park. I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness might have been inside the park home run. I think Thor.
Yeah, but I think the
expectations too, home run.
The expectations of these projects have been so lofty, and Iman said it right. Like, we need Disney Plus. It's Disney Plus is literally connecting a bunch of the dots. But the expectations, I think, for Marvel are at an all-time high, and it kind of just makes sense. It's kind of failed to meet them. I mean, how do you come off of Endgame? And I know they hit it out of the park with that Spider-Man, because that's like a once-in-a-lifetime idea, but. I mean, let's be real. That Spider-Man movie only worked as well as it did because the first 2 Spider-Man series kind of failed. And it kind of it made them succeed in a way. Because, look, Tobey, we didn't even talk about this, but I'm just saying Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man 3 was horrible. Not a good movie.
Right, correct.
except for the
Correct.
parts where he's goth,
Correct.
and that was my favorite part of the movie. That changed my life. But no, and
Hey,
Andrew
but
Garfield,
Max,
he failed
with
as Spider-Man too, in a sense.
right, but with the Spider-Mans, the reason why the third movie was such a hit was because the setup to it. Think about it. Spider-Man No Way Home would have been trash if you wouldn't have had WandaVision, Loki, and Doctor Strange. I mean that makes that movie like one of the all-time greats just because of what part it played in a bigger story.
Exactly.
So
And I
that's
mean,
why.
how could you can't replicate it because it's literally it wouldn't have worked because first of all, when they made Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, there was no thought of a cinematic universe. There was no thought of any of that stuff happening. And
Right,
only very specific stuff because you can never do that movie again. You can't ever do
right.
it again and for it to be as big a hit. And with like they kept it a secret damn near as long as they could. We all knew,
Mm,
but we didn't know. No one
mm,
walked into that movie 100% sure.
right. Well, I agree. I agree, and that's why I think that, and that's why when you made the statement that Kevin Feige at Comicon at SD22 is going to calm everybody down, I think Kevin Feige and his crew in Studio and Hall H and Studio H, I think their job, and I think this will be the overwhelming thing that happens at Studio H, is that they're going to start really mashing the gas to connect the pieces. And I think when we go back and look at it, like maybe in a year from now or 2 years from now, we'll be like, man, those Phase 4 shows and movies were so pivotal as far as the production is concerned, because I think we're going to get huge production things like Secret Wars and the development of the mutant world. And we'll see that like the stuff that they did was, if we wouldn't have had it, it will be messed up, moving forward. So that's why I think I'm more excited about Comic-Con more than anything. Comic-Con, I think Kevin Feige is going to tie up the pieces. I really do believe it.
And like Ahmad said, Endgame was a walk-off ninth inning. You're down by 3 runs, bases loaded, grand slam, home run. And you just can't
Mm-hmm.
do that. Spider-Man, same thing. All these stuff that built up to it was like they literally took pieces that were broken and made like a masterpiece with it. It makes like they
Mm-hmm.
had puzzle pieces that didn't fit, but they connected somehow with Spider-Man. And
Mm-hmm.
Sean, what you
Yeah.
just said, you said Secret Wars. I wanna wait before I touch on that. We have Secret Invasion coming with Nick Fury.
Yeah.
We have the Kree coming back. And I mean, look, I miss Samuel L. Jackson in the MCU. I really
Mm-hmm.
enjoy seeing him in there. So I'm excited to see a show based on him. I
Mm-hmm.
think it's going to be a good show. I know Maud would disagree because it's like kind of connected to Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
and he just has to be a hater.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can't wait to get Mom back on the show so we can turn his opinion of Brie Larson and because, hey, but listen, because it has to be. Think about what happened in Miss Marvel. Man, that character is pivotal. So Secret Invasion with the Kree War match, I think you're right. 100%, dude.
so
That,
what do you think? Do you think we see a trailer? Do you think we get some like maybe a character reveal in there? I think Secret Invasion's been a very low key project. It's kind of like Rhodey
mm,
show Armor Wars. She's not trash. Stop, Mod.
mm.
Stop being. You're very ugly when you're mad and hateful. But I think Secret Wars has been kind of a low key thing, and I'm excited to
mm,
like hopefully have it get some shine because like Rhodey show Armor Wars was announced like 3 years ago, and we have heard nothing.
mm.
So
Nothing.
I'm just excited to see about Secret Wars, and I think to create another alien race, like it's just another pivotal part. Like, what if we get the Shi'ar Empire next? What if
Yeah.
there's a
I,
Shi'ar Easter egg in there? You know?
yeah. Well, I think we have to get the Shi'ar. We have to get, okay, so I just went back and I watched this because I didn't even remember how it ended. I went back and I watched the last X-Men cartoon, like the actual last one that came on television. And how it ended was Charles Xavier was taken by Lilandra to her planet to be able to live because he had died or he was going to die based on his exposure to that mutagen machine that guy had that hated mutants, right? So you see the show where Lilandra teleports him up to a ship, and then all the X-Men are standing in front of the mansion, and you see the ship go off into space. And that was the end of it. So we have to have, if there's a secret invasion, and you got the Kree and the Skrull, and we know that the Marvels is going to introduce them being off-world and fighting with other stuff. The outer space portion or universal portion of the MCU is got to grow and got to be huge. So because we're going to get something like that, Max, and I think you're head on. In Secret Invasion, we're going to get reference and mention to other types of aliens that exist. I
Like
really do believe it.
Inhumans, Black Bolt, Medusa,
Nah,
like a monster.
I think Inhumans is dead in the doornail. I think Kevin Feige is doing it on
Black
purpose.
Bolt
I think
shot
he's killing
Black
stuff.
Bolt's death, and Doctor Strange was the last time we'll ever see the character.
Yeah, I think
I hope not.
You was gonna, well, I mean, if you was ever going to bring the Inhumans, Kamala Khan was the way to do it. Who are you gonna bring now?
What I think is though, what I think right now is they saw a better opportunity. What's more important, Inhumans or mutants?
Mutants.
So that's why they were like, let's just go with this, make it a little easier. They could backdoor some Terrigen Mist stuff into it, no doubt. Like maybe they'll do something with the Black Knight or something. I don't know. They'll figure something out with them. The Inhumans, I would like to see them. I would like to see the Dark Side of the Moon. I want to see them. And then last thing,
I think the thing about what we're going to see with this production is I think we're going to see that the Kree experimented on humanity to make mutants. Because in the comic book, it was.
Well, why don't they just make that Inhumans? Just make it Inhumans.
Well, I think they're going to switch it. I think they switched it. I think on the MCU, I think there's going to be that the Kree experimented with humans to make mutants. But in the comic book, and I think so, and I think in the comic book, it was the Celestials that experimented with humans, and I think they switched it, and I think the Inhumans will be because the Celestials did A, B, C, and D. That's what I think they switched it.
And Sean, what about Blue Marvel? Do you think we get anything from that about Comicon about Blue Marvel?
It's gonna be years, man. It'll be years. Blue Marvel has to. Okay, let me explain this. Blue Marvel was not even introduced in the comics until well after Miss Marvel. You know, Blue Marvel, he was around way before, you know, but they kept him like bottled up because he was an experiment more or less going wrong. So if they say, okay, Blue Marvel is one of the Marvels with Carol Danvers, with Kamala Khan, with Monica Rambeau, maybe. But I think it's going to be years. There's too many other titles that we got to talk about that will be going forward. Like you said, we haven't even, how long has it been? It feels like 2 years, and we've got no Iron Wars. You know, we've got no certain stuff, and it's like, man, we need that stuff in order to, you know, push the storyline out.
Yeah, the envelope. You know? Yeah, exactly. Last thing I wanted to ask you, and you know, if there's a big mystery announcement, what's it going to be? What's like something that's going to break the internet?
Max, there's so many things that they could do.
That's why I'm asking Big G, who lives in that rabbit hole. What's yours? I would say this. We're going to get the actor who's going to play Dr. Doom. They're going to tell us who it is. It's not Keanu Reeves. I don't think it's Keanu Reeves. That's what I'm going to say. They're going to announce it, and it's not Keanu Reeves.
Okay, so I got a stretched out far prediction. It's probably, I would say maybe 10% that it would happen, 90% that it's not. But if it happens, it would break the internet. The prediction that would happen would be they would announce a Wolverine title for the MCU and announce the actor who's playing it. That would break the internet. There's no ifs and I doubt if it happens because I don't think Kevin Feige's moving that fast with mutants. But if he was ever going to do something that would just break the bank, he would talk about, you would hear that, and then you'd hear his claws go shing, and then you see something come across the screen, and it'd be like Wolverine, and then Kevin Feige, let me introduce you to our new actor that's playing Logan, such, and the guy walks out on stage. If that happened at Comic-Con, then people would lose it. They would lose it.
You know, they said I think Hugh Jackman's done. I would love if he came back, but I don't think I think what Wolverine coming in the MCU, it's time for a new beginning. And Wolverine, they're going to be very particular and protective of who they cast as him, just like Dr. Doom, because these are huge characters, fan favorites. You know,
Right,
there's like a
right.
big talk that they're gonna have the guy who played Harry Potter as Wolverine, Daniel Radcliffe.
It'll never work.
He's got the shortness, got that 5'4".
Man,
Hugh Jackman's like 6'5", bro.
it'll never work, man. It'll never work. They'd have to put 150 pounds on him to even make it
We
look
can
right.
do that. Wolverine's only
And
like walking around at a light 600 pounds with his adamantium scale, a skeleton.
it'll never work. It'll never, ever
And
work.
we
They
got
gotta
mods.
find a guy, you know.
Yeah, we got mods as Keanu Reeves will play Doom, and I think we'll get the rest of the Fantastic Four. We damn near could. We very well could. But you know what's weird about this Comic-Con? You know, Disney's so big, they have their own Comic-Con now, like D23, which I feel
Right.
like they always keep some like really big news for. So they might just be playing it. We might not get anything crazy, right? It's not like
Yeah.
2005 where Comic-Con was like the holy grail and San Diego Comic-Con more than anything, but I think we're still going to get some big news. So, G, with that being said, let me get your parting shot, then I'll give mine.
Yeah, my parting shot is definitely. You guys, it's an event. So if you're not able to actually go to Comic-Con, it's 3 days. You know, there'll be so much information to talk about daily. You know, so please tune in to the things you're going to see on the event. And then more than ever, be ready for our show on Wednesday because we're really going to talk about what we've seen based on some of the predictions because our show is literally in the middle of the week when the Comic-Con is going on. So we'll talk about some of the things we saw that we predicted, hey, this is what would happen. But if there's a big blockbuster, stay tuned because we will have it live and in person on Marvelous on Wednesday for sure. And that's my shots, Max.
And they should definitely like our videos if you guys are enjoying what you're seeing. You comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow. You know, just even like telling somebody word of mouth. You know, we're old school here, especially Big G and Mod, but you know, word of mouth still helps out. My parting shot is, I'm sorry, there's not going to be a whiff of Secret Wars. There's not a whiff. It's too far out. Let's get some extra time. Endgame didn't happen that long ago. Just let's take it easy. Let's pump the brakes. The Russo brothers said that's their dream project. It's our dream to see it, but it's too damn in the future. It's not even close to happening yet.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we'll get a whiff either, but people are pushing the gas, Max. You're right.
I mean, we've talked about it. Like we speculated like a year ago, I believe that like Secret Wars is coming. Like this is what it's all about, but we're so far ahead of ourselves. It's crazy. And you know, my last thing is I think DC is going to give us one piece of news to talk about. Just one. Probably Black Adam.
For the whole,
something with that.
The
whole universe will provide us with one story.
Wow. Okay.
Morbius 2 also confirmed.
Maybe those might be some of the Morbius never be a headline, but maybe I don't know, man. DC's gonna have to do some real stuff to get me to even start talking about them again because they got a lot.
Oh my god, we talked about just the actors like messing up the roles for people, bro. Like that's like how bad it's gotten for DC. And you know, I'm going down like on a tangent. I'm out of control. But you know, Morbius like re-released right like a few months ago in theaters. They were trying to capitalize with the fact that it became a meme, and it still made no money.
Exactly. Like I said,
and it's hot trash. Agree.
Yeah. I love comic books in general. You know, I love them in general. That's why I do what I do. But I can't spend time thinking about DC until they get their act together. They are really, like Ma says, hot trash. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. DC is hot trash now.
Marvel
I'm gonna come up with
Morbius.
an acronym. I'm gonna come up with an acronym for DC. It's gonna be something nuts.
Dude, I think Morbius should get traded to the DCU because I think that's a fitting trash for a fitting trash universe. But look, I'm Max. I've been here with Big G. Mod's traveling in the multiverse. We don't know what variant we're going to get when he comes back, but we will return on Wednesday, talk about Comic-Con. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Peace.